2025. Good to see you all of your gorgeous faces in person. I'm just going to start with a little story to get us into the panel that we have with our esteemed panelists here. But I'm just delighted to be here with you. Thank you all for being here and taking this time to talk about corporate volunteering strategy. So my quick story: applied for a renewal on my credit card, and I just got it in the mail. And the expiration date said 2030. Can you believe that our credit cards say 2030 right now? And it caught me. I was kind of aghast, and I was like, wow, in 2030, I would have thought we were much further into the future. Cars are flying, and we're more like the Jetsons, and we're traveling to Mars, and we have robot friends that are accompanying us everywhere we go. I'll bring it back, I promise. So where I'm going with this is that what we have here today is some incredible panelists that are really guiding us and leading us towards the future of volunteering. So I want to give them the opportunity to do the obligatory bio moment. So they're going to share with us where we're a little bit more than just what you see up there on the screen. And then we're going to get into some questions, as these panels do, and we'll hear more from them. So let's just start with Sara. A little bit about you.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Sara Link from IBM. And I lead Global Employee Impact, which is our giving, our volunteerism, and disaster relief. And I'm thrilled to be here today. IBM is a company that is a leading provider of global hybrid cloud and AI and consulting expertise.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Shayla Nielsen from JPMorgan Chase, and I oversee global employee-led volunteerism for the firm. A little bit about me: I live in Columbus, Ohio. It's where we have one of our headquarter buildings. I've talked to a few of you last night. It's one of the largest non-skyscrapers in the nation. We have 10 to 12,000 people in that building. And just a little personal note: I am a mom of 2 daughters, a 5 and a 2-year-old, who are home with my husband right now.
Morning, everyone. Amanda Misbe. I'm from Adobe. I lead our employee impact and giving programs there, as well as some of our community relations work and disaster relief work, and currently filling in for a colleague who's out on family leave, leading some of our product donation work. So I'm based in Seattle, Washington. I come to San Jose, it feels like all the time. So it feels like home here. And yeah, just really thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you all so much for those quick introductions. So what we're going to do before we get into the line of questioning, we're going to do a few audience engagement moments. So hopefully you're going to see a QR code pop up on the screen. And we want to take a moment you can pull out your phones. This is when you can have your phone out. And we want you to answer the poll. So just take a moment and fill that out. I think you can see it down there too. So what is the percentage of employees volunteering at your organization? We just want to get a sense for kind of the general percentage out there. Wish I had my glasses. Okay. All right, thank you all. I think we're landing somewhere around a third, somewhere in that space, somewhere between 20 and 30%. That's interesting to see. So the next piece of audience engagement that we'd like to do is a good old-fashioned word cloud. So if you could define key elements of a volunteering strategy. I think we did one of these earlier too. What are some words that come to mind for you? Those key elements of a strategy. engaging, impactful, inclusive, recognition, accessible, all such great words as we look to develop our volunteering strategy. So thank you. Thank you for taking a moment to do that. I think these are good things, and you're going to hear from the panelists on a number of these soon. So I'm going to get right down to it. Let's start with our line of questioning. So I'd like for you all to answer this particular question. Many companies volunteer, and they do volunteering, but not all have a solid strategy in place. I'd love to understand from you all, what are the key elements of your volunteering strategy? I'm going to start on the end. I'm going to start with Amanda first.
Great. For Adobe, I would say one of the most important elements of our volunteering strategy is having open choice. So for us, that means employees are able and empowered to volunteer wherever they care about, whatever is important to them, and the company supports them in that. You know, there are some limitations to eligibility for matching, but for us, we have a $25 an hour for service volunteer time match. We also offer, for every 10 employees that volunteer together, a team volunteer grant that the company gives to the nonprofit. So up to $10,000 per event for, up to 2 hours. So we have ways that we think about how are we enabling our employees to have that choice and the things that they care about. And then we also have programs that we run from our team that are really about how are we supporting our strategic partners with the things, the people resources that we have available to them. So thinking about what are our ambition as Adobe and CSR team, what are our strategic priorities, and how are we pairing employees that have the skills that our nonprofit partners need to really amplify their work. So for us, it's that pairing of impact for our strategic partners, and then open choice for the folks that really want to drive their personal ambition.
So for JPMorgan Chase, we have the luxury of having a very surround sound approach. And what we sort of dub this as in the firm is our volunteering ecosystem. So we have the ability to have sort of this like tertiary level of volunteering where we do some transformative change that's focused really around our business pillars. What do our shareholders want to see, and what do they expect from the firm? So we do a little bit more deeper volunteering strategies in that transformative change space. And then we also have LOB-driven or line of business-driven volunteering strategies. And so you think about some of the like traditional pro bono work. So legal pro bono, we do a lot of technology pro bono work as well, where we're building technology solutions for nonprofits. But then we also do, of course, financial literacy as well. And the difference with those strategies is that they actually sit within the line of business that they're aligned to, because they are very close to that line of business strategy. So our financial lit programming sits with our consumer bank in CCB, one of our lines of business. Technology pro bono work sits in global technology. It's mobilizing our software engineers to do that work with those nonprofits. Legal pro bono, of course, sits with our general counsel. So it's really deriving from a business need and a business focus. And then lastly, we have the employee-led or the employee-driven component, which is the piece that I really oversee. And it's allowing our employees to bring what we say, their passion to purpose. So much like Amanda was saying, employees get that opportunity to choose what they want to give back to, right? The example I always give is that our employees, maybe they are a cat lady and they love animals and they want to help out with that animal shelter down the street, right? Or maybe they're really involved in their church and they want to take their family every Saturday and their colleagues to do something in their church. They can do that. They have the choice to do that. And that doesn't necessarily have to be part of our transformative change and our LOB-driven, right? It's really up to them, which allows us to engage them better, right? It's really what they care about, how they're bringing their passion to work and getting to do that with their colleagues. So it's a really unique and like I said, it's a very surround sound approach, and we're very fortunate to be able to do that. In terms of impact measurement, we look a little bit differently, as you can imagine, across all of those programs, right? Transformative change is going to be something that we're looking at 8 months to 2 years, sort of skills-based programming. The way in which we manage the impact on something that's transformative change is going to look different than the way in which we look at impact from an employee-focused program. So in my space specifically, with the employee-led component, we're really about engaging our employees. We actually sit in human resources under employee engagement. And employee engagement includes things like mentoring, it includes recognition, it includes ERGs, if you're familiar with those. So we're sitting really in that HR space and how we're engaging our employees within the firm. And so of course we have our typical metrics like unique volunteers. What's the percentage of workforce that's participating, right? For us, it's around 25%, which is nearly 80,000 people globally. And so we're looking at some of those key metrics, but also we're looking at some of the things that you heard Abhishek mention today. We're looking at performance. Is there a correlation between a high performer and somebody who volunteers? We're looking at promotion. We're looking at attrition and retention, right? And we have really great stats to prove that there is a correlation between people who volunteer and get out in the community. They too tend to stay with the firm longer, right? Their retention is higher than someone who doesn't volunteer. We also know that satisfaction with the firm is higher from our annual employee survey. So we have a lot of really great impact measurements that we're looking at, but they're all a little bit different based on the needs of the program. And then I would also say from a executive sponsorship perspective, as you can imagine, because we're so surround sound, we have a lot of leaders that are involved. So many of our OC leaders are involved in overseeing a lot of these programs. And so it's not just one executive leadership. It is a table of many. And so sometimes that's really wonderful. It can be hard to navigate sometimes as well. But we have a lot of eyes on the work that we're doing.
So just to add to that, from IBM's perspective, our corporate social responsibility strategy is focused on how we can solve some of the world's biggest challenges in the areas of education and skills building, as well as through social innovation. And our volunteerism program helps to support and drive that. When we think about some of our programs, we do have this flexible approach where our employees are able to volunteer for whatever causes are most important to them. And a few years ago, we set an external target, which is 4 million volunteer hours by 2025. And we are on track to deliver that. However, we are extending the target slightly. But all of the ways that our employees give back are either aligned to the causes that are most important to them or to support some of our larger strategic initiatives. So, for example, with our skilling program, we've made this commitment to skill through our Skills Build platform 30 million individuals by 2030. And we are at 11.5 million. And it's our IBMers that are helping to do that through mentoring, through teaching courses, through supporting those programs. Some of the other ways, though, that we help to bring these volunteerism programs to life is this diverse set of offerings. So we bring and meet employees where they are. So whether that's team building initiatives, ensuring that we show up at leadership offsites, and really connecting to employees of what they're most skilled at and what they enjoy doing. We also have a campaign that runs throughout the year where we know that people will volunteer on their own time, but it does make sense. For example, we have our Global Month of Impact, which takes place in October, and we use incentives like our rewards program, so connecting our volunteerism to our giving and our matching program, where we're able to offer, similar to Adobe, is we offer dollars for the times that they give, up to $1,000 per year per employee, on top of a matching gift policy of up to $10,000 per year. So by connecting a lot of these programs and then, over the course of the year having different incentives to bring people together, it's really shown us that we're able to drive a lot of hours that way. But I will say that beyond the supportive policies, the leadership engagement piece is really critical. So ensuring that we have leaders around the company, we have 170 offices around the world, how they are showing up and giving back with their colleagues, for their teams, and making it really viable for their employees to demonstrate their impact. And one other piece that I wanted to mention was that the company had not previously had a volunteer time off policy. So all of our volunteering was done either on time, people's own time off, or if people wanted to give their teams time to volunteer. But this past year, we just launched 4 hours of volunteer time off, and we're really excited to get that off the ground and see the results that that drives.
Thank you all for that. I think I'm hearing choice. I'm hearing transformation. I'm also hearing scale at which you're operating too. Those are all such important pieces of these strategies that you have all put in place. And I also think just different ways to access, and we see that Godera is obviously offering that, but you all are definitely putting into practice. So thank you for that overview of all of your strategies. Shayla, I'm going to kick it back to you. Woo! Frog in my throat, of course. I'd like to hear from you around, so you lead the employee-led volunteerism initiatives that you shared about. Can you walk us through kind of what are some of the key experiences that in your career so far that have shaped your approach in your work?
Yeah, so I actually happened into this space in a very fortunate way. I've been with JPMorgan Chase for over a decade, and I have a marketing degree. So I actually started in our consumer bank in marketing and did that for quite some time, and eventually was like, I really miss the people side of the business. I really want to be involved with people. And so I moved into HR after a couple of years and led one of the biggest implementations in HR in probably the last 25 years. We took 400 HR systems and consolidated them into a cloud platform for our entire firm, which was a massive effort. And I did the change management on that. And so during that time, I took my team to a volunteer event during our Employee Appreciation Week. And we showed up at the event, and I looked at my colleague and I said, "You forget people do this at the firm? Like, wow, what a cool job. Like, how cool is this?" I went back to my desk quite literally the next day, and an alumni group that I was part of had sent me an email promoting the head of my role. It was an open job and an open position. So I was like, I have to apply. And I had the job literally 5 days later. And so it was a very fast transition for me, but I was also very hesitant because I was like, I have never worked in the nonprofit sector. I know nothing about nonprofits. But ultimately what it came down to was like the business acumen, the business experience, right? I had policy knowledge. I had product knowledge. We actually work, and many of you may as well, our HR department is a product organization, what we would call a product organization. So just as our consumer bank offers credit card and debit cards and mortgages, those are products that we offer as a firm. HR also has products. Compensation, right, is a product. Volunteerism, employee engagement, is considered a product. And so we operate in a product organization, and I had that experience. And so we really needed to, after the pandemic, things had sort of fallen off the track, so we needed to put things back together. Volunteering wasn't happening. It lost its people and its team, and they needed somebody to kind of come in and put it back together and piece it back together. And so I sort of happened into this role, but mostly because of my past and previous business experience, but it's been truly one of the most rewarding spaces to be, and I tell my team every day that I'm just so glad to be here. So very, very fortunate, and love to see just the change that we're making, love to see how much it's continuing to grow, especially through our partnership with Godera and others. It's an incredible impact that we're making and continuing to grow.
I think highly transferable skills that you have there, obviously. Amanda, I'd like to turn to you. You've had a journey in your career, as we all have, sometimes circuitous, from concert violinist to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, to Adobe. What are some of the kind of key lessons that have shaped your approach at your work now today?
It's a good question to go from being a performer to being on a stage. I think my time at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is now just the Gates Foundation, which we weren't allowed to say when I was there, really...
How times change.
I know, time. It really shaped my approach to this work and being nonprofit first. So I think one thing that I took away working there as long as I did was understanding like what the business does well and where it can have a unique impact for nonprofits in the community, and really helping external folks understand that, and then also helping shape how employees understand that. I think the Gates Foundation in particular is a very large behemoth of a building in Seattle, and it is a place with a lot of money, and so people come knocking a lot, and explaining the strategy and understanding why something might be in or out in terms of funding is something that you have to get really good at. And so I think in my work there, connecting employees to both their own philanthropy and then also an extension of being ambassadors of the foundation in their own communities was something that I learned there, and then was interested to bring to Adobe. I think Adobe has really fantastic programming that I can't quite take credit for. I think it was, there was a team there that put in some really high impact programs like our pro bono residency program and our board service matching program, and things that I value in high impact nonprofit support. And so it made moving to Adobe a very attractive to me, because I think I saw the value in helping on the corporate side those same nonprofit partners understand, what does this company have that is unique, and how can we use the resources that we have to help support your work. And I think every company has their own unique set of skills, to quote Taken, I think. And so helping the community understand, what is this giant building and why aren't they doing more, and where are the resources available, and then helping our employees understand where we can show up and where we can't, and what they are empowered to do as individuals, is something that I personally try to bring to all of my work, and I think a lot of that was instilled at my time at the foundation. But I am really proud that we're able to do that at Adobe too, because I think we have spent the last few years really looking at what are the unique capabilities of this company, what are the people resources we have available. We think about our people, product, and philanthropy. So what are those, how do we marry those things and support our partners and help kind of open the doors of our big buildings to the community, to help them understand why we are here, and are we leaving it better than we left it because we are here. So that's how we approach kind of our strategy and our work, and that's how I think that's the framework that I bring to my work.
Sara, would you like to talk a little bit about how your career journey has shaped your work at IBM?
Sure. Well, next year, if I come back to this summit, and they ask the question...
When you come back.
When I come back, and we do the standing exercise, and they say, how many people have been involved in corporate volunteering for 20 years? I will be still standing at that point. Woo-hoo! So, no, thank you so much. But I started this, I moved into corporate social responsibility in 2006 at Goldman Sachs, and I spent a number of years doing that, managing programs, and then had moved into consulting, where I worked with different nonprofit organizations. And I think the biggest lesson there for me that I've taken with me is that volunteerism cannot be a burden to nonprofit organizations. We really need to ensure we're providing nonprofits, first of all, understanding what their needs are, understanding what the community needs are, and be able to have volunteers really fulfill those roles. And to also alleviate a lot of that burden. I think that's one of the great things about Godera, is that they play that role that helps to really make it easy for nonprofits and communities to show up, and to have employees show up and really make the best use of individuals' time, and also to be able to provide the most impact to organizations. So that's one aspect. And I will say the power of volunteering is something that has really stuck with me, from volunteering for the first time doing disaster relief back after Hurricane Katrina. Some of the individuals who I volunteered with when I was back at Goldman Sachs are some of my closest friends today. So it really does have that ability. But then over the course of my career working in media, so I led corporate social responsibility at AOL, and the power of cause marketing and the ways that you don't have to always invest a lot of dollars in a program, but if you have employees who are committed and they want to be able to give back, you could think about how they can even include their skills in marketing to be able to support communities. I love what you said about what do you do behind these big buildings? And one of the things that we just launched at IBM is a program called AI for Impact. And we actually did partner with Godera, but they helped us to facilitate with a number of our technologists at IBM building a curriculum to teach AI and some of the possibilities of AI to nonprofit organizations. So we had the opportunity to spend hundreds of hours of time where volunteers created this curriculum. And then we invited nonprofits into our office for a day-long session to really think about how they can better use AI for their fundraising, for their volunteer recruitment, for their productivity, and really using our volunteers in a way that they taught the sessions as well as developed the curriculum, and thinking about how more long-term we can support our nonprofit partners. So I think just some of the lessons that I learned, I realized that was a little bit long-winded, but it really all connects to thinking about how we're centering communities and the needs and understanding that there's so much impact that can happen, both on the community and beneficiary side, as well as for the individuals and the organizations that they work for.
People first, community first, leveraging your business's skills. I think those are certainly themes that I'm hearing. Sarah, I'm going to keep it with you. And we know that IBM has been around for a while, and it operates globally. What's the secret sauce behind scaling globally? And how do you ensure consistency in the volunteering efforts while allowing for that regional flex?
So the ways that our program is structured is that we have a global strategy. I alluded to that earlier, but it's really thinking about how we're able to work with our CSR colleagues around the world, as well as a network of champions. We have over 300 champions right now all over the world that help to take the programs and really come at it from more of a grassroots approach. So thinking about what's important to the communities around the world, what's important to the employees around the world and where they want to get involved, taking into account cultural sensitivities as well as local and regional laws, and ensuring that we're able to offer a program that meets everyone's needs. And we don't always get it right. We are still learning and we're course correcting as we go. But I think I would say having more of this overarching strategy, but then allowing for the regional and local variations has been helpful.
Yeah, and I think, Shayla, I'm going to turn to you because you spoke about the champion network as well that drives your volunteering efforts. So how do you strike a balance at JPMorgan between the champion-led kind of grassroots efforts and more of the company-wide mandates, perhaps? That's not the best word. The company-wide strategic initiatives?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it comes back to that surround sound approach, right? We've got teams that are doing specifically transformative change. They're focused on our business pillars, right? They're focused on what do our shareholders want to see. So we've got people who are specifically leading those efforts. They're much more targeted. They're much smaller. They're less, they don't happen quite as often. But we've got people that are really focused on that. I think from an employee-driven perspective, the piece that I really own, our champions are what we call volunteer chapters, and there are over 100 of them in markets around the globe, making up, I think there's around 1,100 people that are serving as champions for our program, which is quite impressive and very expansive. So it allows us to get very much like IBM and what Sara was saying, it allows us to get that grassroots, local, regional feel, while also still driving from the top. So we're very much a hub and spoke model where at the center we're providing the platform, the resources, the general strategy. We even provide them with their own funding and their own budget for each of the chapters to be able to go out in their local communities and work with organizations. We know internationally it's, a lot of times people come to us and they don't realize that volunteering is not free. And it's, you can still find that here in the US occasionally, but it's becoming harder. And so we do have to provide funding to those chapters for them to be able to engage with those organizations. And they get to make the decision on who that's with. Obviously we do some vetting, but they kind of determine that strategy, right? And then same thing with what I would call our marquee opportunities, opportunities with organizations like Goodera. We provide those as a form of funding, if you will. We say, each of our chapters has X events with certain organizations that they get to organize for their people in their market, but they get to decide what that strategy is. So, to give you an example, in Columbus, just in one building in Columbus, we have 10 to 12,000 people. If I were to give a junior achievement opportunity to Columbus, where we're only going to engage 5 to 10 people in an opportunity, they're not going to communicate that to the entire market, right? That's going to be full so fast. That employee experience isn't going to be great because they're going to come to sign up for that opportunity and there's not going to be spots left. So the market gets to decide how they engage with those organizations and that funding and opportunities that we provide them to really make sure that it's meeting their needs and benefiting them and their employees in the best way possible. So very much hub and spoke is the way that I would describe it.
Yeah, I see that a lot, and I think it's what I'm hearing from you at JPMorgan is that the business also is the driver in a lot of the work, but that kind of overarches everything, which I think makes it a lot easier when you're talking to leadership about the work that you do. Amanda, I want to ask a question of you, and then we're going to move on to our last question. So you talked about the power of choice at Adobe, making it inclusive for all employees, and you all do an incredible job with that. How does that particular philosophy play out in your skills-based programs? We've heard everybody, you've all talked about, in one way or another, how you're engaging the employee's skill set in the work, especially when you have such a wide variety of skill sets out there. People can be on very different points in their journey in their skill sets, from executive all the way down to new joiners. So how are you looking at that at Adobe?
I would say it's very similar to what Sara was describing, where we really focus on meeting people where they're at. So that choice is intended to bring people into the system and give them an experience that then leads them to hopefully wanting to do more. So we approach this idea of, and I really need to rebrand it because I really hate it, but the ladder of engagement, which really is
Did you say the ladder?
The ladder.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to come up with something else. But it brings people in and, the idea being they have a good experience and you can lead them to the next thing. And over time, you're building their level of engagement. And so for us, our hope is that maybe they do want to become a champion. Maybe they do want to be a mentor. Maybe they do want to join some of our pro bono programs, which are really tying back to those strategic partners that we have. So we spend a lot of time with our grantees talking about what their needs are, where are their skills that they could use support with, and where do we have the people resources to pair them with that. We have, like I said, our pro bono residency program, which is really a long-term project where teams come together to solve problems for nonprofits, and those problems are vetted by a team that is working very closely with our grantees. We also have have what we call design workshops for good, which are really kind of those week-long pro bono initiatives to tackle one problem for a grantee and give them some ideas to start with, and then maybe it does turn into a pro bono program. We also have our board service matching program, which is really about training employees who have interest in that level of engagement with an organization, making sure that they're really well informed about the opportunity of board service, and then supporting them in being placed